Starting this week, I wanted to start a series on this channel where I attempt to find and make home decor inspired by some of our favorite stores, and today we are going to be doing Anthropologie. So without further ado, let's get started. For the first Anthropologie-inspired home decor project, I think every high-end home decor site has a variation of aged ceramics. And one thing you can always find at the thrift store are ceramics. Now, usually they're not the right color, or they're a bit outdated, or they're damaged a little bit like this one is. So this one was just $4, but it was a really nice size, and I wanted to try a few different techniques. I've done the matte black spray paint with the muddy mix on top, and I love that look, but I wanted to try doing something a bit lighter this time around. So I'm starting out by using 3 coats of Matte River Rock spray paint by Rust-Oleum. And normally what I've done in the past is I will alternate doing a coat of spray paint, and then just as the paint is drying, I'll apply a dirt mixture to the entire surface of the vase. But this time I just wanted to neutralize everything and just make it one solid color before I apply that mud mix and one other little thing that I've been doing that I've been really loving recently. And after applying the 3 coats of the Matte River Rock, I then applied a matte clear coat of spray paint just to kind of seal the color in before I apply the dirt mixture. So after all the spray paint had dried, I brought it inside, and it was time to now add the moss. And I think just kind of rubbing this moss all over the vase for some reason just gives it a bit more depth, and it further mattifies it, making it look that much more realistic and aged, in my personal opinion. And it's a really affordable way. You can get reindeer moss at the Dollar Tree for $1.25, and I think it just adds another color, which makes it just feel a little bit more interesting. And then after I kind of got that green underlayment hue situation on this vase, I then added the dirt mixture, and I took some dirt from my backyard, added a little bit of water to it just to make it easier to work with, and I just applied it all over this vase. Just a quick tip is, if you plan on doing a project like this and you're someone like me and you wear rings on a daily basis, just try to avoid using the hand that has your rings on it, or wear gloves, because you could potentially scratch your surface, or worse, you could get mud deep in that ring and that will be very hard to clean out. So just avoid using that hand or wear gloves. For the top section, I really wanted to kind of amplify those ridges and those curves, so I added probably more mud mixture there than I did for the rest of the vase itself. And then after everything had dried and everything was really well spread out and I was happy with the final result, you just want to give it one quick coat of a matte sealer before you bring it in your house, so that way it stays the way that you wanted it to look. For the next project, I wanted to make some brass framed artwork. And normally when I find brass frames at the thrift store, I don't usually love the print that is inside of them. So what I try to do is I try to go to the book section or even the art section there and see if I can find some really pretty sketches or some artwork that I really love. And Anthropologie does that a lot. They have a lot of black and white prints, which are very common when you're looking at sketches specifically. So I took this first page of that ballet book and I decided to swap out the picture from this frame, and I just prefer the way that this looks in the end. So that's a good example. If everything matches up perfectly, the size of your print or your picture or your page matches perfectly to your frame. But if it doesn't match, one thing I like to do is use a mat, and this is super simple. I had a brass frame that was just $1 from the thrift store, and then the mat was also just $1, and then I found this toucan print, which I know this is not going to be for everybody, but Anthropologie sells a lot of bird pictures and bird prints on their site, and it is a small fortune. So if you're somebody who likes this kind of home decor, if you're someone who loves this kind of artwork, this might be a good project for you. For the next project, I really wanted to make a Grecian bust table lamp like this one shown here on Anthropologie's website for $268. So to start, I needed to find a table lamp, and I found this one with a rooster on it at a flea market for just $8. So to start, I needed to remove that rooster. And to do so, I'm just going to unscrew it from the bottom, and I can save this for a later project or maybe give it to someone in my family who likes this sort of a decor style, but it's really just not for me. So I decided to remove him safely and set him off to the side. With the rooster safely removed, I just needed to kind of cut the electricity from this lamp because I needed that structure that would hold the lampshade up, but I was just planning on using a puck light because where this is gonna go, there's no electricity that could go to it anyway. So I thought this might be the perfect opportunity to do a project like this. So I just took my hacksaw and I hacked off the bottom metal piece that connected to the base of that lamp. And now it's time to add the hole so that we can connect the two pieces together. I believe this bust is made of resin, so I needed a special drill bit to be able to connect the two pieces together. So this is the one that I used, and it really did work perfectly. So if you plan on doing a lot of projects, it's definitely worth the investment because I think it was under $10, and now I feel like I just opened up a whole array of projects I can do with this drill bit. So I'm just drilling down a hole through the middle of his head. I know that sounds really morbid, but that's just how we're gonna get this look in the end. So doing so, adding some firm pressure, and then I'm going to be able to connect the table lamp top piece to the base now, which is our Greek bust. Before I place that top piece into this hole, I did add some super glue gel and some E6000 just to make sure that it would stay nice and secure. And this is how our Grecian bust table lamp turned out. For the next Anthropologie inspired DIY project, we are going to make a tortoise print candle. And by make, I mean we are really just putting two things together. So I had this pillar candle on hand from the Dollar Tree, and then I found this tortoise print. It's almost just like a jar or a cup, and I'm going to combine those two things together. Now I could have done the full thing where you melt the wax and get the wick and put the wax back in. But to me, when it's this close in size, you're better off just saving your time. And I think it's a really fast, affordable way to get that look for less. For the next project, you might know if you saw my thrift with me that I did while I was in California, and I came across this sort of cabbage shell carved wood bowl, and I removed the cabbage shell because it just really wasn't my personal aesthetic, and I thought this might make the perfect thing to make this hanging planter that I saw on Anthropologie's website. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm just kind of seeing the scale and the size, and you could use air plants or you could use real plants, whatever you have on hand, but I'm just starting out with some moss that I found from the Dollar Tree and seeing where I'm going to need to put the hooks so that way I can put the cord or the jute through. So I had this suede cord, but I opted for the jute just because I thought that that looked way more similar to the inspiration I saw on Anthropologie's website. So I decided that these are the hooks that I'm going to use to put on the top so that way the cording can go through that. However, when I tried to screw them in without using a small drill bit to get my hole started first, it wasn't going in. I don't know if that would, because it's like carved, it was just a little too tough. So I did have to use a really small little drill bit to pre-drill a hole, and then I was able to connect these to those holes. And with those all nice and secure now, it's just time to add the jute. So I just cut 4 strands of jute for each one of these hooks. And then that way I'm just going to connect them at the top. And I'm just gonna do very simple knots here, nothing really complicated, just so everything is nice and secure. And to remove some of the excess fibers and just kind of clean it up a bit, I'm just going to take a lighter and just kind of light each strand of jute cording. So then that way it kind of just burns those little threads. For the next Anthropologie-inspired home decor project, I came across this wooden pyramid, and it's just an object, and I've really been loving to use just objects as decor in the last year or so, I would say. So when I found this, I know that the one on Anthropologie's website is made of metal, which I so wish I had found, but because I didn't, I'm gonna try to give a sort of metal or metallic effect. So to do that, first I'm starting off with some 220 grit sandpaper, using my electric sander, but if you don't have an electric sander, that's fine. You could just smooth it out with some good old-fashioned sandpaper. And this is really just to make it not look so rigid and smooth out all of those rough spots. And to sort of give it a metallic look, I think you always have a better result when you do at least 2 colors. So I actually spray painted it navy first, and then I did an overlayment of rub and buff and antique gold on top of that. So I wanted a little bit of that navy to show through, and I think it just creates more dimension in the end. So when I'm looking on Anthropologie's website or any high-end home decor's website, I see lots of baskets. And then also at the thrift store, I see lots of baskets. But what separates a basket from the thrift store to a basket that I might see on some high-end home decor sites is the color. A lot of times the color that you'll find at the thrift store, they're just too orange, and that's not really what's popular or what's trendy right now. So to sort of lighten it up a bit, I decided to use some good old-fashioned bleach baking soda mixture and dip the basket inside. I would say that this probably works better if your basket is like softly woven and not like a rattan, like a hard basket. And obviously you want to make sure that whatever you're bleaching, you have the capacity to kind of soak it inside of the mixture entirely. One thing that I wasn't super crazy about is how inconsistent it was. There were some spots that accepted the bleach mixture really well and some that did not. So if you know why that happened, just leave me a comment down below so I can fix it for later. And then to fill it, just like a styling idea, if you're like me and you're just hoard several different florals that you find at the thrift store or the dollar store, just try filling it into a pot or a basket. And I think it gives like a really nice, like colorful moment in a really unexpected way. For our next Anthropologie inspired DIY project, I found these brass wire decorative things that you can put on the wall, but I thought let's make them purposeful this time around. So when I was looking on Anthropologie's website, they have several different variations of this same thing. They have these floral leaves that have hooks attached to them so you can hang like a bag or something. They also have something that looks just like this, but they have pictures hanging from it. They also have something like this that's meant for just jewelry. So they have several different variations of the same thing. So I would say if you're at a thrift store and you see something that looks like this, you could make at least one of those if you have very Anthropologie inspired style. So when I was at the thrift store, I came across these and they were just $1. So I thought it was worth the try. So the first thing I had to do, there were 2 different pieces. So I had to connect them. And for me, when it comes to wire, the best thing to do rather than any sort of glue, just because it doesn't hold up long-term, I've noticed, is to just use some zip ties. And I didn't want obviously the zip ties to show. So I did end up having to break off one of the leaves with the stems to just make it a little bit more inconspicuous so you wouldn't be able to see it. And what's nice about this is these leaves with this wire, it was actually very strong. So it wasn't like spray painted florals or anything like that. Like this was very sturdy actually. So I just snipped off the excess from the zip ties and made sure that they were all gonna be covered pretty well. And I kind of just got the general shape down of what I wanted. Now you could just leave it just like this, pop it up on the wall, use it to hang jewelry or something a little bit more lightweight. I don't know if I'd put like anything heavy like a winter jacket on here, but I think it is a very easy way to get that look for much less. Now I wanted to take it another step further, so I decided to do the picture version of this. So I picked up 3 frames from the Dollar Tree and I had these prints left over that I actually got for free at a garage sale. So I'm going to put the prints in the frames and then attach them using some super glue gel to the pictures and attach it to our wall hanging. And for the last DIY Anthropologie inspired home decor project, one thing Anthropologie has loads of on their website is colored glass, tinted glass. So I came across this glass jar with a lid for just 50 cents at the thrift store. So all I wanted to do was just add a little decorative knob to the top, and I had a knob on hand, but it wasn't the right tone. So I decided to take my rub and buff in antique gold and I just super glued that knob to the top of the lid. And I think it just adds a little something extra. And that is all that I have for you guys today. This is definitely a step outside my comfort zone, a lot more color than usual, but I hope that you found it helpful. I hope you learned something in this video, and I hope I see you next week. Bye.